What's up, everybody? I am Johnny Christ, and this is Drinks with Johnny. Thank you so much for checking out the show. I'm super psyched today. I'm going to be joined by Harvey Guillén, and I'm just about to fan out because I've been watching What We Do in the Shadows regularly since it's been on FX. So we're going to be talking all those things. I'm feeling good today, and if you want to feel a little bit better, go get some Sweet Drop CBD. This is a CBD oil. It's pure. It's made in Oregon. I'm not going to get into what CBD can do for you, cannabis oil. Just go to sweetdrop.com. They lay it all out for you and explain everything there for you. So I'm going to start off this show with a little of the original flavor. It's good, man. It's just going to help the receptors in your brain process food. As I said, head over to sweetdrop.com. Right there, you're going to find all the information you ever need to know about CBD cannabis oil. And you know what? Use promo code DrinksWithJohnny and you're going to get 20% off your order. That's right. Promo code DrinksWithJohnny, 20% off your order at sweetdrop.com. Now, without further ado, I'm gonna move my CBD out of the way. We got a drink to make with my guest today. As I said, I'm super excited. You know him as Guillermo from What We Do in the Shadows. Harvey Guillén, how you doing today, man?
Hey, nice to see you, Johnny.
Nice to see you too, man. Thanks for putting this together for us. I know we ran into a little trouble. You were feeling a little ill earlier this week. How you doing now?
I feel way better. There's been a crazy week with like the finale and like doing the show. I do the Before the Shadow show, and I think my body was just like, you need to take a little day and just relax. So I'm glad that we do a rain check.
Yeah, no, it worked out for us over here. So before we get into it, I'm really excited to talk everything Harvey. But before we go into it, we were talking back and forth through email, and we came up with a little drink. And we're going to call this one the Familiar Sunrise. And then in honor of Guillermo over here. So it's really just a small spin on a tequila sunrise. Are you ready to make this?
Ready.
All right, cool. So we're going to start off. We're just going to add the tequila first. So I use Cazadores Reposado. It's a solid tequila for making drinks. We're going to do 2 ounces of that. And equal parts, 2 ounces of orange juice. So yeah, you said you wanted a tequila drink, and I was like, okay, let's play on that a little bit. Let's see what I can do.
My go-to is tequila. I like to use Casamigos, which is a.
Oh, I love Casamigos. It's a great tequila.
Yeah, but I stick to that or vodka drink, but tequila seemed more familiar.
Yeah, I see what you did there. He's already on his toes, people. I like it. All right, then we're going to add some fresh squeezed blood orange juice. That's where we're going to make it a little bit more familiar again. Not to steal the thunder that you just had there, Harvey. Another 2 ounces of that. And then we're going to do a little, half of a lime. We're going to squeeze the entire half of that lime in there. Best we can. Just adds a little bit of lime flavor to it, obviously. And we're going to fill up our Collins glass. I have a Collins glass. What kind of glass do you have over there?
I like the copper. I like drinking out of copper glasses. And
oh, okay. Like same as like the Moscow Mule or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
and I'll drink anything. It doesn't matter if it's. I started off with the Moscow Mule, and that was the only reason I would drink out of it. But I was like, drink out of this? Like, do I just drink any, water even? I just
just going for water. This guy just walking around with copper glasses all over.
I know.
Hollywood.
I think it's weird too because I've been drinking out of it, which can be deceiving because then people think, are you drinking an alcoholic drink? It's 9 a.m. and I'm in a Zoom meeting because I'll hold the cup.
Wait, is that frowned upon in your Zoom meetings? In my Zoom meetings, it's like totally okay to do that.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but I just like it. I like it. It feels old timey.
Yeah, no, I get you on there. So you're just gonna shake this up, give it a good few shakes. No need to strain this one. You're just gonna go straight into your Collins glass. See how it nicely fills up there. Then you're gonna take just a little bit of grenadine, teeniest bit. I'm talking like a dash. I wish it came in like bitters form. Grenadine bitters. I need to make that. That would be delicious.
Note to self.
Yeah. A pinch more. And then we're just going to garnish it with a blood orange peel. And there you have it. We're going to call that one the Familiar Sunrise. Cheers, Harvey. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Cheers.
All right, all right. Let's see how this came out. It's excellent. It's excellent.
Love it.
All right, all right. So let's get into it, man. I want to go to a little bit of the beginning. We'll jump around a little bit here. Just a fun little conversation. But I read somewhere that you were actually, we have a kinship. You were born in Orange County in Santa Ana. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
That's where I was born too, actually. Probably, just a few years later. We won't get into that, but like, this is
years later, years before.
Yeah. And how long did you guys spend in Orange County, or were you just born there? And...
I lived there until I was 4. We used to live behind the OC Register, the newspaper.
Okay.
We lived there up until I was 4, I think, or 5. And then we moved out of there to a different part of Santa Ana. But like shortly after that, we moved all over the place. My dad used to work for a construction company, so we moved to like Vegas, Hesperia. So wherever a town was like booming, that's where like we would move to. So I kind of did like this whole traveling around Southern California and Nevada. And I just felt like I was on a tour, like I was a vaudeville show guy. And I go to new school, new town, new friends. That's how I talked when I was a kid too, by the way.
Yeah. And then when did that change for you? Like,
I think along the way, people were like, "Why are you talking like that?" I was like, "Just save it, Toots."
So I mean, the other part that I found interesting about your childhood is you come from a very big family. There's 9 other siblings or 8 other siblings.
Yes. Well, when my mom married my stepdad, the families merged together. So I have half brothers and sisters, and so it's a pretty big family.
And where are you in it? You're like smack dab in the middle. You're a little on the top, a little on the bottom.
I'm pretty much in the middle, I think.
So it's a Harvey Guillén sandwich, is what you're.
Yeah. Well, when you put the extended family, because my stepdad was much older, so he got a head start. So he already had like older kids. So when we joined the families, I became the middle. But when it was just like us in the household, I was the oldest in the household because technically everyone else had become an adult and moved away. And so it was just me and my younger siblings. So I have 2 younger brothers and a younger sister that I kind of grew up in the same household with.
Oh, that's cool. So you obviously you're still very close to them, I would imagine then.
Yeah, my sister actually is my best friend, and she produced Before the Shadows. So she wrote and produced the pre-show for the fans that we started doing because people wanted so much content, and she just stepped in and made that happen. So a lot of credit.
I didn't realize that. That's rad. No, I saw a little bit of that. We'll get into that in a little bit. Real quick though, we got to talk a little. I mean, we can't just brush over it. What's going on in the world today? You know, we just got, I mean, as here in California, same as you, things just opened today. It's Friday. Things have just started to reopen a little bit over the last couple of weeks. What have you been doing under quarantine? I know you've been super busy still with the show, but that just had the finale on Wednesday night, I believe. So, and then you're doing the Before the Shadows. If you have any downtime, what have you been doing on your downtime?
I haven't had any downtime. Like you said, for the last 10 weeks has been pretty packed. Just creating the show and producing it with my sister has consumed the week. So everyone's, they see the live and it's like, but we have to organize schedules. Like, Jermaine is in New Zealand and the rest of the cast is in London. So time zones are different.
Oh, yeah.
You have to arrange the time to do a Zoom meeting and record it and do that and get questions from the fans. So it was a lot of work that went into it. And aside from that, doing interviews and catching up with friends and all that, like it's been kind of packed. So, but along the way, I do try to find some like window of like, okay, I'm gonna do something fun. Has nothing to do with like work or the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
And that's just like escaping to watch another form of entertainment, which is like reality TV or something. And do that.
What reality show have you been watching?
Oh man, I'm a sucker for the Housewife franchise.
Oh, my wife, I see that all the time as I catch myself watching it some too. I'm not a hater, but my wife is the one that has it on the TV, and I walk by.
Yeah, and that's how it started. At first, I was like, I'm not gonna watch a reality show, and like you start watching it, and you just commit to it because I don't know. It's just like the circumstances are so ridiculous and like it's like insane. And
are you kidding me? You've never found yourself in those kind of dramatic dinners, just yelling at somebody across
and
the
throwing
room?
Glass, at people.
I can see Harvey getting pretty wild at a dinner.
I mean, I'd love the opportunity if given, but I just don't see how it always escalates so quickly. It's just like you did say that. And it's like, I didn't say that. Yes, you did. You did. It's like, whoa. Like, it's just like,
Why don't
it's
they
just, that's
do, you know what I always as a sports fan, I look at it and go, why don't they implement the instant replay? These arguments wouldn't have to
yeah,
escalate. If they'd be like, you
no,
said this, you said this, be like, no,
yeah.
let's go to the replay.
Yeah.
And
What
they
they
can,
do now, they do a throwback while they're talking to contradict that character wherever they probably want to take the storyline. Like when they ask somebody, like, well, were you bullied in school? And then she's like, or were you the bully? It's like, no, no, no. I always stood up for the person who was bullied. And they show a clip of like them bullying someone in the cast.
just getting them good. I love that. You
Yeah.
just
And I was
mentioned
like,
quickly on like some producing aspects right there. I wasn't sure. Did you go to school for acting and producing, or was and which school did you
well,
go to?
I grew up doing musical theater, and I
Mm-hmm.
went to a musical theater school here in California. I was part of the Citrus Singers, which is like a music conservatory,
Mm-hmm.
and they do a 3-year program there where it's an intense program. I highly recommend it if you want to do musical theater, and all around it just it kind
Is
of
it too late for me being like in a
oh, you never
band at
know.
35?
I don't know. You could try. You could show up. You never know. Actually, I fell into it by accident because I was going to Southern Utah University, and I was offered a Shakespearean scholarship there, and I turned it down because I went and visited, and I was like, I don't love it. Like I just didn't like feel that it was the right place for me. And at that point, I was also falling into like, do I want to be a Shakespearean actor? Like, is that what I want? Or is that because I thought in my head a real actor is a Shakespearean thespian,
Yeah.
And I love singing and dancing. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, why can't I incorporate my art into like singing and dancing? And which I did. I went to school for it. It was intense. It was like really long schedule. Like you did tap at 6 a.m. Then you have vocal like coaches. You had one-on-one musical theater. Like it's just all of this until like 10 p.m. at night every day,
Every
every
day.
semester.
That's brutal,
No.
man.
Yeah, but it really
So
did
it
teach
does
me.
take a lot people to put into this craft. I mean, that's
Yeah,
really
and
cool.
I always find it funny when people are like, "Oh, you're just like natural talent." Like talent is great, and people have natural talent, but what you do with it, and it's like that tenacity, because there's so much talent in Hollywood and the world. It's what you do with it, and if you're gonna
If it
stick
could put
around,
you above the
yeah,
rest, it's
yeah.
I could definitely see that. Another thing, briefly about the quarantine, then we'll get into happier things. You just celebrated your 30th birthday in May. Is that correct?
That yeah, my birthday just passed May 3rd. Yeah.
So on May 3rd, we're here in California. It was still active lockdown. How did you celebrate your 30? I mean, 30 is a pretty big deal. So, like, I mean, what were you able to do? Were you just in a Zoom party with some friends? I mean, how did you celebrate your 30th birthday party?
My brothers and sisters threw me this like Hawaiian like luau at our mom's place. So we've been all quarantined together, and it was just a nice like. When I say that, we like they live like 20 minutes from me, but we've been seeing each other the whole time, and we made sure that everyone was in their own locations. And so when we did that, it was kind of the first time that we kind of really hung out together, and it was really nice. So my sister and my brothers put this Hawaiian luau, but instead of like a Hawaiian barbecue, we had like Mexican tacos and like so we were like the theme was luau,
The theme
but the
was
food,
luau, but the food was
it was
was
like yeah.
Hispanic. Okay, I like
But I
it.
love it. Like I still have like I would have eaten anything. It was like, but it was just the thought of like
What were you
let's
guys
make
drinking then? So, I mean, did you at least go a little Hawaiian on the drink, or did you stick just straight Hispanic? Did you tequila, or did you
I think
have
we
some rum?
did. I remember doing some tequila shots, so that
Okay.
was you can't mess that
Hey, you
up. And
remember it. That's pretty good, dude.
yeah, and I was just yeah, it was a nice time. It was and I knew that was gonna happen also, but also earlier that day, my friends threw me a drive-by parade.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
involved in a couple of those too for
yeah,
some
and that was
friends.
really nice. And the location there was the destination for everyone to meet was this abandoned, not abandoned, I guess, but no one's using it, parking lot in Beverly Hills, where it was right in front of the Shadows poster that covered this giant medical building. So
Oh,
the decoration was the poster itself on a giant, 30-story building that covered the whole side. And the parade was right there, and like it was really nice. It was just like the parade of like people who mean a lot to me. They showed up and keeping the distance and like rolling the windows down, and even if they came out of their car, they stood by their car, and everyone was like separated by like 15 feet from each
yeah,
car.
man.
And
It's kind of like the new normal, right? I mean, it's super surreal that we're Yeah, as everybody knows, especially here in, or places like here in LA or New York. I mean, New York just got into phase one, which is insane. You know,
Yeah.
we're as I said before, we're starting to open. And that's pretty cool. But I just have to say, in the background there, is that the kind of poster you were talking about that you were just describing? Is that the what we do in
Well,
the
this is
shadows
last
poster?
season's
That's
poster.
last
So
season. So you had new
I've
seasons up there.
dedicated,
Okay.
right. So this is last season when Guillermo wants to be a vampire, which
Oh,
still
he still wants to.
season
But see,
two.
we got to get into that. Before
Yeah.
that, I got to ask one more thing about your background, though. You
Yeah.
have frames with no pictures in them.
Right.
What is that about?
It's just a choice. I turned this corner into this is where I do the before the shadows. So this kind of
Okay,
became like set. So we have this really old handcrafted like wood chair.
that's a sick
It's
chair.
like gothic and dark, and we have the poster. We have a couple of frames which kind of can mirror the our living situation in what we do in the shadows. So it's kind of just like a little set that has been created. But the actual frames are mine all year round. Like I actually put this wall full of frames. They're all one color, so it's just like the way I see it, it's just like I have another wall where it's just posters of like projects that I've done and things that I like, and this one's empty. So it's like you can always fill in because there's always more memories to be made.
That's very cool. I like that. That's a good aspiration still. I like that.
Yeah.
So we've beat it around the bush enough. I think it's time to get into a little bit of Guillermo and what we do in the shadows. I am a huge fan since I saw the movie years ago. Wanted to know, were you a fan of what we do in the shadows before you got the casting call, or do you remember how that casting call came about for the show that is now on FX?
I didn't. I knew about the movie. I hadn't seen it, and it's so weird. I was just talking about someone that the night that I was going to see it, I was in my pajamas, and it was on queue on Amazon because I was going to watch it. My friend Mimi texted me and said, "Hey, I'm only in town for a weekend. I'm in LA, and she's in New York. I'm only in town, in LA for a weekend because we're getting away from this storm that's happening in New York, and she has a newborn. I'd love to see you. We're having wine and cheese night at my brother's house." And I said, "Oh, I'm already in my PJs, but I hate when I miss an opportunity to see friends that don't live in the state." And
Mm-hmm.
so I dragged myself, like, I'm going to do it. I went to the wine and cheese night. It was her husband, her baby, and like a friend that I didn't know was friends with her before. And I met her that night. Her name was Yvonne, or is Yvonne. And then we just talked about nothing and everything. And the next day I got a text from Yvonne, and she said, "Hey, I hope you don't mind. I got your number from Mimi. I think you're so fucking funny, and I think you should audition for my fiance's new show." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "What show is this?" She's like, "What We Do in the Shadows." And I was like, "The movie I was gonna watch?" And I was like, "No, it's a show now, but they're making a show, and you should hurry though because they're casting this role that I think you'd be good for in the next like 2 days or something, the next like whatever." And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Okay." So I looked into it. I had to call like my agents and tell them that I had an audition, which is not the norm in
Yeah,
Hollywood. They
usually
usually
they're calling you, right?
yeah, I called them and said, "Hey, I got an audition." So I booked the audition basically on my own. Um, and then I read the script and they're like, "Okay, they're gonna give you like because somebody who knows obviously the part of the creative team." They gave me a complimentary audition. And I read the script and Guillermo was 20 years older, and I was like, "Oh," I was like, "Am I gonna be right for this?" And they're like, "Well, just go in and see what happens." So I went in. I was super excited to meet Allison Jones, who's an amazing cast director. If you know any show you've ever loved and a movie that you love, she somehow has been involved. Like
Okay.
The Office, she cast The Office, Bridesmaids, like you name it. Like you go down the
Wow,
list.
that's quite a. I mean, that's quite a resume right there. Just in those
Yeah,
two movies alone.
just those two, and that's just the beginning of the iceberg. Yeah, and just like I want to go meet her. I want to because I'd never gone in for her in her office, and I was super excited. And I go in the next day to the audition, and she's not there. She's auditioning for my role and other roles in London, and I go in with Ben, the casting associate there as well, who's fantastic and amazing, and puts a microphone on me, and I just remember doing it when I was done. I don't remember what I did. Like I was just like, "What is happening?" And Ben's like, "We're done." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And then I walked out. He goes, "Harvey, wait." And I thought he was gonna say, "You got it. You're the one, kid." And I was just like, "Yes." And he goes, "The microphone."
That's showbiz for you right there. That's a little
Now
insight. I
that's
like that.
showbiz, kid. And I walked out thinking I fucked that up. I didn't do well. Like I walked out and my agent was like, "How'd you do?" I was like, "I don't remember, so I don't know if I did okay." And then and 2 hours later, they had shown it to Yvonne's fiance Garrett Bash, who works with Scott Rudin, Sharon, Taika, Jermaine, Paul. Everyone had unanimously voted to test me for the role. So there's another level of audition.
Okay.
And I was super excited. I was like, well, what happens if I get it? Like, they're going to make the character younger. So instead of 20 years, he's only worked like 10 years or whatever. So they said they're going to call you. And I was like, okay, great. And a couple of weeks go by and we're up to like MLK weekend now. It's a 3-day weekend and I haven't heard anything. I'm with my sister and I was like, give me a sign. When is this test going to happen? I need a chemistry with this other actor. And like, when is it going to happen? And the phone keeps ringing and I ignore it because it's like a 16-digit number and I don't, as a telemarketer or something. So I keep ignoring it. Eventually I'm in the car with my sister and she's like, will you answer the phone? Like, just answer the phone. Like it's been ringing. I answer the phone and he goes, hey, is this Harvey? And I was like, yes. Hey, it's Jermaine and Taika. I was like, yes, Mr. Yes. And he's like, yeah, you auditioning and you're the one. We'll see you on set. And I was like, oh no, I'm gonna test for you, right? And it's like, no, you booked it off the tape. And so I never tested it with Kayvon or did a chemistry read or did a screen test. I booked it. This was like 7 days. So I had to call my agents again on the holiday. One of them was like in Hawaii or something. And I was like, hey, I booked it. Like, Harvey, I can't hear you. I'm at a wedding. What's going on? And I was like, I booked the show. They're like, no, you have a chemistry read coming up. No, I booked the show. Harvey, they're dancing. What are you saying?
You need to stop drinking right now, Harvey. Like,
yeah,
this is
yeah. And I was like, no, I'm sure I looked insane to them. Like, I booked the show, and like having like a moment, and they think, oh no, Harvey's lost his shit. And then eventually a couple hours went by, and then it wasn't until like later that evening, and maybe even that next morning, which was still a holiday, and like it was like, yeah, you booked it. And I was just like, what? It's like, you have a fitting tomorrow, which was a Tuesday, and then you start filming a Wednesday.
That's incredible. So, I mean, it's obvious to me now why. I'm sure it wasn't to you at the time, but I mean, now I can't picture anybody else in that role whatsoever as Nando's familiar. And another thing, you probably didn't realize it at the time, but let's just talk about the evolution of Guillermo on the show. He's a descendant of Van Helsing. That comes out in season 2. And you probably didn't know that he was going to be a descendant of Van Helsing. When did you find out that Guillermo was a descendant of Van Helsing?
I didn't find out about that until the DNA test that we did in season 1. And didn't know that it was going to happen until we had a table read. So when the table read happened and I was like reading, I was like, oh, wait, what's happening? And that was the cliffhanger for season 1. And I was like, whoa. And then, so then you take a break and then you show the first season and then you see we get picked up for a second season. Then we got picked up again. And I said, I wonder if we're going to continue, because, sometimes things get dropped, but they will revisit it for the first couple of episodes until mid-season or something. And sure enough, got to set for second season. I wasn't told anything ahead of time. I didn't know anything. And at the table read, it's like, Guillermo kills vampire. Guillermo kills the second vampire. Guillermo kills the third vampire. And I was like, oh, so we're going like it's like full throttle, like we're doing this story. And it's like, yep. And it's like, let's talk. We're going to talk. And so I got they gave me a personal trainer. I had to go to the gym like 3-4 times a week.
I was going to ask about that. Were you doing a lot of the stunts yourself then? Or I mean, all
the stunts are pretty much me, except for like the ones that were really kind of dangerous, like falling downstairs backwards. I could have broken my neck. They let someone else do that.
Yeah.
But
I gotta meet that double too. I mean, was it like looking in a mirror? How did they do on casting the double? Did you?
Oh yeah, I posted a picture of us together, and it was just funny because like he would make a joke. The stunt double would say, yeah, man, you're gonna get me out of a job because you keep doing all the stunts. And I was just like, I was always like, let's try it. Let's see if I can do it. And so we tried it, and it was like, I feel safe. Okay, let's do it. And jumping out of a window, like flipping it off, and like all that stuff. It was super fun, and I really kind of went full ahead with it. Like I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it. And I'm glad I did, because it's like it brings a different layer to Guillermo. And for myself as an actor, I love that I usually don't get the chance to play that, like this like badass stunt person. And I did it. And even when I posted this video actually today or yesterday on Twitter about like, this is what the rehearsal stunt on the first day looked like. And people were like, wait a minute, that was you? You were the one who was writing it? Like, Yeah, that was me.
Especially in
People
the finale. I
automatically,
mean, you took out an entire theater of vampires. I mean, it's not
everyone.
spoiler alert anymore. This was Wednesday night, so.
That was one. Yeah, it's all in the open. Everyone knows now. We're even everyone's seen the whole season now in the UK. It dropped last night and people like binged it all night
Oh,
and
perfect.
they watched it. So it's out. If you're not caught up, you should probably catch
You
up.
should
This is all
probably
your.
catch up because this
Yeah.
show, I'll go into the fandom that I have for the show. Like, me and the wife loved the movie. We saw that the FX show was coming out, and we started watching. We're like, well, let's just see. And then it was like, oh, it's a different cast. Okay. Let's see what's going on. And then every single one of you guys nailed that role. Well, let's count it. Five of the main guys on the show. It just picks up with that same humor from the movie that I love. Maybe even takes it a step further. And I thought you guys did great. Another thing that I love, and I have to ask, is the banter. Is how much of that is written out for you guys, and how much is? I mean, it feels like some of it's got to be improv, or you guys are just like, you've read those lines so many times, you're just effortless at that point. What's the process for you guys?
Yeah, we do. We always do one take where it's scripted, which the script itself is already hilarious. It could
Mm-hmm.
stand on its own. It doesn't need anything else. And we get the freedom of doing a couple of takes with improvising. So you always know where you're going to go from like A to B. So you don't like take the storyline somewhere ridiculous. You know that you have to get to your point, and you just do it in your own language. And so you do it in your own like character voice. And I would say it's a nice mixture of like both. So it's like 50 script and 50 improv. So when you blend those things together, that's what makes it look so real, which is kind of funny because it's like it's so ridiculous. Some of the storylines and the adventures the vampires go on that it's like this is ridiculous, but it feels real because the documentary is following them,
Yeah.
and it's done where like Guillermo's like the straight man in the show where he's like the voice. He's the audience. So whenever you look at Guillermo's face, he's just reacting like a human would react, how
Yeah.
you at home would react by watching this, because they're so unaware. The vampires are so unaware that they're so like dated and so stuck in their old ways, and then their day-to-day problems are not human day-to-day problems, and so sometimes even listening to it you're like that is the least of like your
Oh, it's
problems, like
so
it's
good.
so,
Oh, dude, even just in the finale the other night when they were all breaking down about not having clothes to wear because you were no longer in the house washing their clothes, or Guillermo, sorry, is no longer in the house washing their clothes. And it's just, that's hilarious. And they're losing their minds.
the idea that they can't function, they're so superior to like the human race because they're vampires and they're immortal, but they can't do their laundry. They
It's
can't
so
do,
good.
you
It's
know what
just,
I mean,
the
like
juxtaposition of these characters is just it's so awesome. I absolutely love it. I want to get into a few other things, but this takes me to a little bit more of your backstory. You've had an incredible career even to this point, and I know you've got a lot more coming. But before we get to what's coming, let's talk about a little bit of the past. You were in a movie called The Internship with Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn. You had a really cool role there where you're on the. It's almost like if you call it like a
the
Revenge of
villain
the
team.
Nerds.
We were the villain team, but
You're
I
on the
was the only
villain
good person.
team, but you're the only
Villain
good
team.
one on there, and eventually
Yeah,
you get to stick it to him at the end.
yeah.
Couple quick questions there that'll segue us back into what we do in the shadows. What was it like on that set? Who did you befriend the most? I've heard you speak on how nice of a person Owen was and how business oriented Vince was on that particular set. Could you maybe expand upon that a little bit and kind of reminisce
Yeah,
on what that set was like?
that was actually a really interesting set because I had auditioned in LA for the film. I auditioned for a different role that I knew wasn't right for, and I just went in there again. I've made a career of going in for parts that aren't right for me, and going in and doing them my way and being like, if you like it, you like it. And if you don't, well, you weren't gonna hire me anyways.
Yeah, I didn't really have anything to lose coming in
It's
here.
like I have nothing to lose, So I was like, I'm just gonna do it. If you like it, you like it, and that's it. Um, but I remember auditioning, and I just the director was like on the floor covering his mouth, like laughing, and I was just thinking, well, if anything, I'm not right for the part, but if he's on the floor laughing, he'll maybe think about me in another, project, whatever. And then I had just booked a film with Luis Guzman that we were filming in New Orleans. So I was going to take the summer and film that in New Orleans. And so I go and I shoot the film, and we're in New Orleans, where I met amazing people as well, like Luis Guzman, Nadine Velasquez. It was a really cool experience, and And then while I was there, I got a call and said, hey, the director has written you a part in the movie. And I said, oh, that's so cool. And it's like, yeah, here it is. They sent it over. And I was like, what's the character? So they send the script over, and it's like 2 lines in the script. And I was like, oh, cool. I'll just go shoot that in the weekend. And I'll come back and finish this film. And they're like, no, they need you like next week, and they need you for 2.5 months. And I was
Wow.
like,
For two
for
lines?
2 lines? And they're like, yeah, 'cause that's just the start. Like he knows like you're good at improv and blah, blah. And he wants you in the scenes. Like we visually have to see you in every scene, and then the payoff at the end.
Wow. So you
And
got a complete character written in that that wasn't the part you were going out for. He just
no.
he loved you so much he wrote you a part. That's got to be a pretty awesome moment in your career, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I look back and I've done that a couple of times, and everyone says, oh, I love you in this role. And I can't imagine anyone else playing this role. And I was like, well, at one point, no one imagined me playing that at all, because I had to
That character didn't exist.
and it didn't exist, that, and they wrote it for me. But then there's also parts where, aside from that, like it also happened on a show I did. A one-time guest star was supposed to happen on The Thundermans for Nickelodeon.
Hmm.
And this was after I shot the internship. They were like, the movie had come out and it was great. People, even the cast members had just seen it. So when I went to the table read, they're like, oh, you're from the internship. But for that audition, my agents were like, it's only like a 1-day guest star and it's like 3 lines. We'll pass. We're not going to go. We wanted to bring it to your attention, but you shouldn't audition for it if you don't want to. And I was like, well, you know what? I worked really hard to where I'm at. Like, tell me more about the character. So he's he's a superhero. I was like, never played that. Never been a superhero. He's like, yeah, and he's also part of the family. So they're at a funeral and he's like crying because, but he's really funny and yada, yada. And I was like, cool. Well, he's family, right? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, well, family never goes away.
Yeah. So how are you going to
Like,
write
family
me
is
out?
always around. And so I was like, I'll go in and I'll do a 1-day, part. And I went, did it. I became, friends with like the producers. They loved what I did. 3 weeks later, I got a call. They wrote a whole episode for my character.
Yeah,
For
that's right. Yeah.
And then I recurred on the show several times for the next 5 seasons, like literally, or 4 seasons. 4 seasons. I left one season to go and shoot, and I became a lead on Eye Candy, and I went to shoot that in New York, shot the whole season, came back, the show got canceled, and Thundermans was still running, and they welcomed me back into the show, and
Just
wrote it.
constantly working then. That worked out. I mean, hey,
Worked
you kept
out
bouncing
perfect.
back. Kept bouncing
But
back. That was
imagine,
great.
but also like imagine for those 4 seasons, if I would have turned that one audition down and said, "Oh, it's beneath," you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
would have turned down 4 years of work because of it, and
Yeah.
and
That's funny how that
like,
works out. Like I've been in one band for the last. I'm not going to age myself. And like we've been in that band for a long time, so I've had that steady work. So it's hard for me to understand what you're going through. But as you explain it, it makes it a little bit. It's more understanding, right? Because you hear these different actors talk about, oh, well, this happened, and then this could have happened, and I'm always like, well, why does that have to exist that way? And
yeah.
then you just laid it out like.
Well, there's
Perfect,
just
perfect
also different
English
ways
and
of
math.
approaching things because sometimes because for the beginning of my career, like I always hear no's a lot. You just more. Well, an actor hears the word no more often in 1 week than most people hear in a lifetime. Right? So you hear more no's in 1 week because in 1 week you could have 3 auditions and you may get a call back for 2 of them and you may be on hold for one of them and then you don't get it. So you heard no several times throughout the week. And you do book one thing once in a while, but for everything you book, you don't see like the 500 that you might have not. But hopefully that number is like different and it's not for everyone. But for me, for the longest time, I was waiting for permission from people to did you like it? And they're like, we'll tell you when we're looking for you. You know what I mean? It was like a
Yeah.
permission, asking permission to be invited to the table, asking permission to, when it was like, I'm just gonna do like me
When do you
and
say,
be.
yeah, because you mentioned that already, that you started to just go into auditions and basically say, this is what it's going to be. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't, cool. And then people started writing, characters for you based on this confidence, basically, and how you were putting yourself on display. So
Yeah.
when would you say that transfer came for you? Like how many years ago would you say that was like when you like woke up one morning and you're going into your first audition, you're like, you know what? I'm tired of asking. I'm just going to go in and be me. When was that?
I think that really like the second it really took off in that mentality for me was when I did, my first series regular, and it was like trying to do everything by the book, and like trying to be a mold of what people wanted. And I got to play a character that was so cool, but after that I was trying to fit, am I the right person? I want to be the right person for that role. But then as soon as I threw that out the window, I was like, you're gonna hire me if you like me or not. Like, the talent's gonna like come across as something you want to use or work with, or someone that you want to work, have on your team or whatnot. But another example of that was like I stopped taking, if it's a possibility to get a job or a possibility to book something, I would look for every avenue to get that, right? So for the most part, agents will let you know when you get an audition, and they let you know when they're looking for you. But then you see something on TV, you're like, why didn't I go in for that? I don't understand. And then it's too late. It's already cast and already that. And then you ask the question. When I started asking questions, it was like, oh, you don't see me. I need to know that you're seeing me in a certain way, because otherwise in your head, it's like, well, they'll come looking for you when they're looking for your type or your whatever. And an example of that was when I was shooting a film in Vancouver. They shoot magicians up there, the magicians on Sci-Fi.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, but you were on that show for like 8 episodes or something like that, right? Or was it more?
Yeah, and it was, but the funny story about that is that I knew they were shooting there because my agent was like, hey, they're having auditions here in LA, so send your tape. Even though it shoots there, you're already there, so it's probably like easiest for them to just cast you out of LA and then whatever. And they're like, sure, yeah. And then eventually, like within a couple hours, they called back and they're like, oh, actually, we're gonna do in-person producer session in LA, and Harvey's not here. He's there, and he won't be able to make it. But don't worry, we'll find something for him in the future, hopefully. And I said, no, this is a really great character. Benedict is like so perfect. And the books, like when reading it, it like feels like it's such a perfect fit for me. Mm-hmm. And they were like, no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. And it's like, I put myself on tape, and they're like, no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll find something else. And I just felt like this feeling that I was like, no, if you just saw me do it,
I got it.
Might. Okay. And they were like, no, it's okay. We already have options in LA for producer session. So then I called my agent. I said, they film in Vancouver. And then he's like, yeah. And I was like, well, that means they have a Vancouver office by SAG regulations, right? Yeah. Well, then cast the casting office in Vancouver if I can come in person here. And so we kind of went,
around that person. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. They already told us no. They had said no. And they're like, no, in LA. And then I went and took a back door and went to the casting office in Vancouver. So put myself on tape there. And without the office in LA knowing, that tape ended up going to production. And then the producer's like, that guy, where's he from? And
like, that's the guy I said we're going to pass on.
Yeah. So they had to call
persistency, out LA. People. That's the name of the game with Harvey here. That's awesome.
It was, so at the end of the day, I always say, talent's a dime a dozen, but tenacity is like something that you just need. And I'm glad that I do it. And like, because if I just stood back and waited, I would have said, yeah, you're right. I'll just wait for when you're ready for me. And I would have missed out on like the work. So every time so I can only imagine how many times people are missing out on a potential opportunity because they accept the idea. They're like, oh, don't worry about it. So, and it's like, no, I always look for every job opportunity to the fullest and to the end. And if nothing comes out of it, I can at least sleep at night saying I tried every avenue.
Tried it, yeah, and that's great. I want to get back to a little bit of what we do in the shadows, though, real quick. Great cameos. You got Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill on this season. You had Wesley Snipes last season on like that big, crazy one. Danny Trejo, Haley Joel Osment. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, you guys. And so I just wanted to ask: was there any of those cameo actors, these big time actors? I know you've worked with plenty of great talent and big time actors over the years, but specifically on what we do with the shadows. Was there anyone that stood out to you that you were maybe even fanboyed out a little bit and like went up to them and was nervous to say hi, or was there any dynamic working with some of these guys that have done some cameos with you?
No, I feel like everyone that we knew was coming on, everyone was super excited to have, and what was more exciting was that they themselves were excited to be on the show. Mark Hamill loves the show. Haley loves the show. Like, they are excited to be there, which makes us excited because they're coming to play with us, and we're excited to have new players come and visit the team. And looking back, I knew we were all going to be excited about Mark Hamill because it was like the talk when it was like, oh, it's confirmed, and it was like that's the day that on set all of a sudden everyone was on set. You know, like it was like everyone was like every grip and every like, you know, person who worked the costume.
They're like, we're not missing this day of
yeah,
shot.
and we were shooting the exterior of the house, and all of a sudden it was like everyone. It was like roll call, because you see people working, but they're behind the scenes. They're like in the, you know, in the trucks, or they're working behind building something.
But for some reason they're outside of the trucks that day.
Yeah, all of a sudden like we decided to work outside today, and they're just like, you know, it was just like,
where are you guys filming? A little side note there.
Toronto, Canada.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Toronto.
In Toronto, okay. So another cameo that I found absolutely hilarious was the very funny Nick Kroll was on the show just a few episodes ago. And he was on season 1 too, if I'm not mistaken too.
Yeah, he brought back his character. Yeah,
it was a great character. It's hilarious, his banter with Matt Berry, Laszlo, and I would like, me and the wife. Just as a side note, we were watching, and when Laszlo called him a crispy fuck after he died, we just started losing our mind. So now we, you know, as a personal note, we call each other crispy fucks when we're fucking around. It was just such. He steals the hat back and calls him a crispy fuck, and I was just like, that is the brilliance of that line. Just that one liner right there. It just proves to me like why I'm such a fan of the show. And it goes, you know, I wanted to know if there was a slight chance, and you could say no to this, if I could actually talk to Guillermo a little bit right now.
If you talk to Guillermo, yeah, I mean, like he's totally different. He's a different person.
So what's it like, Guillermo? Like, I mean, you just got exposed. You found out you're a descendant of Van Helsing at this point. You have to know in front of everybody, and you took down an entire theater in front of your. He might not even be your master anymore. What are you feeling right now?
Well, first of all, I'm not wearing my glasses, so I really can't see who's saying anything. But
Johnny Christ from Drinks with Johnny, by the way. Keep going, Guillermo. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm a little terrified, to be honest. So,
what are you scared of? What are you scared of the most? Are you worried about disappointing Nandor, or is it more just this whole feeling coming to you? You don't really know what's coming next.
So all of it terrifies me. Just I don't want to talk about it anymore. So
okay. Well, do you think you're gonna go back to living with your mom though? I mean, you forgot about that fridge. Are you gonna bring her that fridge?
I don't kiss and tell, and I don't talk about my family. So I'm gonna go.
That was perfect. That was a treat for me to get a chance to talk to Guillermo there, so I very much appreciate that.
I know. I feel like Kayvon's so much like better at that stuff. I feel like for me, like if I don't have his glasses on and the hair, sometimes like I feel like it has to be the full package. And I think with Kayvon, he falls into Nandor so quickly because the accent is so like iconic. So
I actually know Kayvon's Doppelganger. He's actually the tour manager for Avenged Sevenfold. I'll show you a picture. I'll send you a picture later, and you'll see it. You'll be like, okay, that is the Doppelganger. When I saw him as the Nandor character, I was like, that's my tour manager. That looks exactly like him. It was pretty funny. Yeah. Another thing though, on those improv moments and stuff, I heard that Kyle Novacek was like from Workaholics, creating Workaholics. You had him laughing. You guys had him laughing his ass off the entire time while he was directing one of these episodes. Which episode was that? And did you remember anything about this story?
Well, Kyle directed the finale episode. Was one of them, but he directed a handful. He was supposed to only direct 2 episodes, and while he was still there, the opportunity came up because it was scheduling that got twisted. Because we also shoot out of order, so sometimes we'll shoot like, and when we say shoot 2 episodes back to back, you might be shooting episode 2 and episode 5. They're not in order. And so while he was there and working on those episodes and editing and whatnot, they needed him to shoot the other 2 as well. And so like it grew from like, and so, but it also was because we blend with him so well, and Kyle's really great at connecting with an actor and like communicating, like, so it was a perfect fit for us. And so far so good. It's been fantastic. And I think it's good to hear, that he's cracking up behind the screen, because that's letting us know that it's working. Because for the most part, you can't laugh during a take. Obviously,
Yeah.
like my
I was,
my
I
favorite
was going to
moment.
ask about that. That was going to segue me to me. Like, so how do you keep it straight? I mean, when you guys are putting this banter together, and you're looking at these guys dressed up as vampires, and you know them as your friends and fellow actors and stuff, and they're in full character, and you're in full character. I've always wondered, what's the key to? I mean, you could always see the bloopers, and there's moments where everyone breaks character on the set, but like for the most part, what's the key for you to like not bust up laughing when you guys are filming?
I mean, for me, like it's if I'm in character, like it'll be hard to, bust out and laugh because the character's not finding those moments funny.
Mm-hmm.
So the character is in that world. When I start slipping out of character because I just know the joke is so funny that I'm just like, there's been a couple moments where, we're shooting the scene with the ghost and we're around the table and we're holding hands, and and it's Matt Berry making the reference like, I think someone summons a breakfast burrito, that why, but it just like I had the giggles and I just couldn't stop, and they're holding hands with Kayvon, and he started improvising. He's like, "What are you laughing about? You think it's funny? You go take a shit." It's like the idea of like that. Even though in character he's still improvising, I just couldn't hold it. So that was moments where I break in character, but they're few and like far between. Like I would say that Kayvon's like the master of it, like, cause Kayvon like is in character and he's cracking himself up with the brilliant jokes that he's coming up on the spot. So
That's so
he's like
rad. So would you would
coming up
you
with
would you say
jokes and
Kayvon?
he
Yeah.
laughs at his joke while he's saying it, and we're laughing because he's laughing at the joke, but also it's really funny. So it's just like a laughter over laughter over laughter. But with my goal is whenever we can get a crew person to laugh, like if you think about it, like gaffers and booms have been doing this for a while, and they've been in the business, and they will be in the business, and they've seen it all. They do a drama, they do a comedy, they do whatever. They're just holding the boom, the mic.
Mm-hmm.
And my best memory of season one is where I was doing a scene and I made the boom guy have to cover his face while holding the boom, and then he couldn't, and he dropped the boom
He
from
dropped.
high.
That's
So he
that's
was
how you
trying
know
not to
that was
look at
that.
my face. He was trying to look at my face, and he's like looking away, but he's giggling and he's shaking, and eventually just says it because he was trying to stop his mouth from like
I,
laughing.
I hope I could
And
see that in some behind the scenes footage down the line when they release some
I
of that
know.
stuff.
I think we've asked because I've seen only a little bit, but I know there's hours and hours of footage. I think they're starting to realize that people want to see these bloopers. Like, well, the whole scene's like a joke already. It's like, yeah, but people like to see where people broke character.
Yeah.
So
Oh, absolutely.
I
As a
for
fan, I would love. As a fan of not only the show but your profession as an actor, comedian, those kind of things. I don't have that in me. I just want to see like what it is behind the scenes. And to that, who would you say is the prankster or the funniest actor on the cast on a daily basis? Do you guys have one? Is someone out there just causing pranks sometimes and like just to mix it up? Because I know those set days could get really long. I've only done music videos, but even those days can get pretty long. So there's usually at least one guy that's around trying to keep it lively. Do you guys
yeah,
have somebody on set like that?
I feel like that would be probably for me. It would be Kayvon because Kayvon is always like in good spirits. He's always like in a, cheery. Like we do work long hours, and so like they can get tedious after the 16th hour of the day. It could be like you're running on fumes and stuff. But like Kyle, I mean Kyle when he was directing, is also that kind of positive energy. But Kayvon I think is like uh, that one. Kyle comes up to you and he does like a joke, like he'll do a dance or something, and then like keeps it lively. Kevon's just always constantly on a good vibe and good like energy, and like it's good to be around him to be like positive energy and whatnot. So I would say for me it's Kevon.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you brought up like positive energy. From everything that I've heard about you, you have like just the most positive perspective. You're just you got, and I could see it right now, even though we're virtually talking. I hope one day we could have a drink down the line. But I wanted to congratulate you. I know that it was just a few weeks ago to a month. You guys announced that season 3 got picked up on FX, so we have plenty more What We Do in the Shadows to be looking forward to. So I'm thankful for that, and I want to thank you for that and congratulate you. On those positive times, though, there's one more elephant in the room. I don't know if you care to comment, but I have to bring it up. There's a lot of protests going on in the world right now for obvious reasons. George Floyd was murdered by a police officer, as we all know now, and it was terrible. No matter where you stand on everything, I'm a big supporter of Black Lives Matter and I Can't Breathe movement right now. I just wanted to see, you being such a positive person, what kind of influence can you have over that? What were you feeling over the last few weeks? Also being in LA, right where a big heart of a lot of these protests were going on.
Yeah, a lot of has happened in the last couple of weeks, and around the world. So I feel that our nation is at a point where it's just time for change. Like it's just time for change, and I think it starts with every single one of us asking ourselves, when we're compliant or when we're just it'll fix itself out, or when we're not part of the conversation to make an effort to fix the problem, then you're a part of the problem. So
Absolutely.
when you're not making an effort, you're automatically the oppressor, and so it's just time to ask each one of ourselves, what
Yeah.
can we do
And
to
it's been
make
a
this.
long time coming. I've been complacent. I'm not casting any stones on those who have it. And it, it was very eye opening. Not to say that I didn't really know anything, but it's easy to look away sometimes. And that's hopefully the change that we're seeing is that is no longer the
Yeah,
case
and
moving
I think
forward.
that's true. I feel like it's easier to look away when you haven't directly been affected
Mm-hmm.
by those actions. And it could be just the actual simple privilege that this is the color of your skin,
Yes.
and that is a privilege, and the privilege that you would never have to deal with something like that. But then to remind that no one should ever have to deal with anything like that ever, and racism is very much a real thing, and that has to be addressed. And
I
this
mean,
will
and you
come
being
together.
Hispanic too, I'm sure you have a perspective on it. It's not. I mean, right now, rightfully so, the focus is on our African American minorities. But I know that isn't just the only minority that's had to deal with these kind of
Right.
injustices.
Well, the racism is alive and well across the board for not just one skin color, but it's
Mm-hmm.
everyone. But right now, it's us supporting Black Lives Matter because it's a huge, huge issue that hasn't been addressed and has been a part of the history books that has almost been washed away. It's like, oh well, it happened in the past, and it's still happening. It's happening right now,
I
and we
think
need
there needs to
every
be an
single person.
educational reform too. I've seen a lot of movement for this too, where a lot of times we're looking at it and like, oh, racism ended with Martin Luther King and everything like that, and that just so
No,
is not the case. And in a lot of the books that are being taught in the public schools, it kind of gets
and I
brushed under the
and
rug.
I think it's important for people who haven't themselves, and this being probably the majority of people who are Caucasian, white, that they themselves have not had prejudice and racism
Mm-hmm.
thrust upon them because of their skin color. I can say that myself that I face my version of racism all the time, and being Latinx, and I can attest to that,
Mm-hmm.
but in no way in comparison to my Black brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? Like it's no way comparison to that. And so what I do is speak up for for myself. And if everyone spoke up, everyone, even if you yourself haven't been a witness to it, but speak up to what's right. That's what's needed right now for everyone to.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And hopefully we could come out on the other side of this and continue the conversation with people of my complexion. I know for various reasons people get of my complexion, Caucasian, hear the word privilege and they immediately get on the defense. And it's like, being white privilege does not make you a racist. It does. It's just the fact of what's going on. You don't need to be on the defensive. We need to discuss why that's there and how we can, get rid of that and have everybody on the same playing field. And I think that's the communication that needs to happen right now. Thank you again so much. I'm not leaving on too much of a downer right now. You had some positive things to say there, and I really appreciate your perspective on that.
Well, it's important. It's good to have a conversation.
Yes, absolutely. So we could talk a little bit about what's coming next. I know that what was it? Werewolves Within is a film that
Oh
I
yeah.
believe that's coming out, right? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that's a film I was shooting right before this shutdown happened, the pandemic. and it's very cool. It's a whodunit thriller comedy. It's super fun. Some of the best people I've ever worked with. I met there. Sam Richardson's in it, and I just
Okay.
did a hang with Sam a couple days ago, and Michaela Watkins. Like the list goes on and on. Like there's so many people who so funny. It's such a funny cast. So I'm excited for that to come, and hopefully that'll be ready this time, next year. Also
So
have
next summer is what they're projecting for you right now.
yeah,
Be on the lookout for
yeah.
that. The next summer blockbuster, Werewolves Within. I'll be on lookout for that one. And then you had what is it? Don't Look Deeper. Is that another project?
Don't Look
that's going?
Deeper. It's out. It's coming out on Quibi, and it's directed by Catherine Hardwicke. And it's I get to play something different in that, which is kind of exciting. It's a dangerous character, so I'm excited for people to see that and meet that character. And we also have an episode of Room 104 coming out. This is the last season for HBO's Room 104, which is always fun. Every episode has its own story. So we got to play a really cool group of kids in the early 90s who rent that room out, and what happens you'll have to watch and see.
Awesome.
And that comes out in a couple of months. So Room 104's final season.
And that'll be on HBO Max too, I would
HBO.
imagine, right?
Yeah.
Does it go straight to Max as well, the new streaming? I just
I'm
signed up.
assuming I don't know how that system works yet, but
Yeah.
if it's going to be HBO,
I had to sign up immediately for it as a big Friends fan. Like I was really sad when they were gone from Netflix. I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? And then it went to HBO streaming, so I was excited for that.
there you go.
One last question though. A lot of diehard What We Do in the Shadows people will be upset if I don't ask someone who might be close enough to know. Are we ever really going to see the Werewolves sequel to that movie? Do you have any insight on that? Because I know that there was the Werewolves was supposed to be a sequel back, but then the show happened. Do you know any insight on that?
That would be a germane question, and
Okay.
I do not know. I know that they have other spin-offs that have happened around the world, like they have Wellington Paranormal, which is out in New Zealand, and I think it's coming to the States soon,
Oh, very
which
cool.
I'm excited to see. And vice versa. I think What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show, is playing in New Zealand as well. So I don't know, but I mean, they could really just make a whole, franchise world over it. They have werewolves. We now introduce witches. We introduce trolls. We introduce. There's so many characters. So everyone gets a spin-off. Everyone gets a spin-off, and everyone has their own shows. We eventually it's just going to be this world scattered all over the world.
I love it. I'm looking much more forward to it. Thank you so much for being on the show. Where can everybody find you on your social medias? Let's give a shout out on that.
You can follow me. It's just my full name, at Harvey
Harvey
Guillén on Twitter and on Instagram and all pages.
Awesome. Very, very cool, man. Thank you again so much. We'll keep in touch, and maybe we could have a drink in person sometime soon.
Sounds good.
All
Cheers.
right, man. Cheers. That'll just about do it for this episode of Drinks with Johnny. Thank you so much for checking out the episode. If you enjoyed what you saw, make sure to hit the subscribe button right down here. Leave us a comment. Turn on the bell notification so you don't miss anything else. Follow us at Drinks with Johnny on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Head over to drinkswithjohnny.com for exclusive merch, the entire archives of all of our episodes, as well as signing up for the Drinks with Johnny newsletter every Thursday, written by yours truly, just behind-the-scenes looks at everything Drinks with Johnny. Also, if you sign up for that newsletter, you'll get 20% off anything on the Drinks with Johnny store right there on the .com. Thank you guys so much for checking it out. Appreciate every single one of you. Stay safe out there. Until next time. Cheers.